Okay, last part 3. Symbolic, Trent thought when he saw the bug, black, swollen, glistening, crawling across his desk. He didn't know what kind of bug it was and watched fascinated as it reached the transcript and lifted itself onto the cover, pausing to rest on the title, Trent Interview, Subject, Durant. Trent rolled a magazine into a weapon and prepared to dispatch the bug with one decisive blow. But it began to move again, and Trent swept it off of his desk with the magazine, watching it spin through the air, land upright, and scurry away to a far corner of the office. He turned his attention to the transcript with its pebbled black cover, finding it irresistible as usual. Trent Interview, Subject, Durant. He reached for it, opened it, thinking, one more time, the transcript impossible to ignore, like a scab to which your finger keeps returning. He stared at the words on the page, but derived no meaning from them, as if they were hieroglyphics impossible to decipher. Inevitably, he thought of the small office and monument and the boy and, of course, Sarah Downs. And most of all, he thought, against his will, of that scene in the hallway at police headquarters and Monument moments after he had walked out of the small office, leaving behind the boy sitting stunned and silent in the chair, disbelief in his eyes. Looking down the corridor, Trent had seen Sarah Downs emerging from an office at the far end. She spotted him at once, an eager smile appearing on her face. He closed the door behind him, leaving the boy alone to contemplate what he had done. He smiled at Sarah as she hurried towards him. He realized how beautiful she became when she abandoned her cool elegance. Trent waited, audio cassette in hand, savoring the sweet moment. Her heels clicked on the warped old wooden floor, and as she approached, she glanced at the cassette, her eyes lingering on it. Trent wondered if the office had been bugged, if she already knew about the boy's confession, the boy's voice captured forever on tape. When she came to an abrupt stop before him, her lilac scent was diluted by a hint of perspiration, which somehow made her seem dearer. She frowned, her jaw tightening as she again looked at the cassette. "Is that what I think it is?" she asked. "Yes," Trent said. "The boy confessed. It's here on tape." Suppressing his excitement, surprising himself by the excitement he felt, he offered her the cassette as if it were a gift. "It's not possible," she said, shaking her head. "But it is. You made him confess." Not a question, but a statement. Voice flat, more than flat, deadly, an accusation. He didn't answer and knew instantly something was wrong. "They have the killer in custody," she said. "I was coming to tell you that. The girl's brother. His alibi with his friends broke down. One of them implicated him, then the other, and he confessed." Trent looked down at the cassette in his hand. At that moment, he heard the office door swing open behind him, turned, and looked, as did Sarah Downs, and saw the boy standing there, wan, abject, eyes haunted, flesh moist and sallow. He looked broken, as if just lifted down from the cross. The telephone rang, bringing Trent back into the reality of his own office. He picked up the phone and heard the voice of Effie, the dispatcher. "Still no answer, Trent," she said, a bit impatient. "Want me to keep trying?" Her voice betrayed her unwillingness to do just that. "It's been 3 days, and now her machine doesn't pick up. It's apparently been turned off." 3 days or 30. Trent knew there would be no response. Sarah Downs would not be calling back. Neither would the senator. His jaw began to ache, like an old enemy asserting its presence. "Don't forget about your appointment with the chief," Effie said, suddenly sympathy in her voice. She knew what awaited him at the meeting. A demotion, not in rank, haircut, and everything else. Maybe the graveyard shift, midnight to 8, no more special privileges, no special time off for interrogations. There probably wouldn't be any more calls for interrogations anyway. The transcript lay there, waiting for him as he hung up the phone, waiting for him to open it again. Trent interview. Subject, Durant. Jason Durant. Poor kid, but at least he was young, free, not caught and fixed in time as if frozen in amber, like so many others, like me. You are what you do, Lottie had said. But now, I don't do anything. The nightmares stopped after a week or so, and he wasn't sure whether they really had been nightmares or just bad dreams. His father said nightmares were the kind where you dream that you are awake and terrible things happen to you and there's no place to run to. Bad dreams are just that, dreams that were bad. Jason's dreams were bad, but he never could remember them. Just the feeling they brought back when he woke up, the feeling that someone or something was chasing him, and somehow he couldn't run. His legs were frozen, or if not frozen, trying to walk in deep water. But nothing specific. And even the word specific scared him. But what really scared him was another feeling. And this one was hard to describe. Hard to even tell the doctor about. A feeling that he wasn't really here in the world like other people. Not able to connect, like he was out of context with the rest of the world. His house, his family. Specific and context. Words that terrified him because they brought back that small office and the man called Trent and what he said Jason did that he didn't do. But he didn't want to think about that. Didn't want to think about that? No, he didn't want to think about that. But he knew he had to think about that. What he did. No, not what he did, but what he said he did when he did not do it. Sometimes the pills helped, but he didn't like to take them because they made a buzzing in his ears and didn't take away that feeling that he wasn't really here. Yes, of course he knew he was here, right here in the house or outside on the patio and next week at school, but still not here, like nothing was real and he knew it wasn't a dream. He didn't like to be alone. He didn't like it when nobody was around. Like now in the house, his father at work, his mother at the Y, and Emma off somewhere. Sure, you'll be all right, Jason? His mother had asked, with that worried look on her face. The one expression she wore all the time these days. Sure, fine, he had said, because he didn't want her to worry. Didn't want anybody to worry. He was the one who had done the terrible thing, and he wanted to carry the guilt of what he did all by himself. But I didn't do anything. Yes, I did. But he could never do what he said he did, what Mr. Trent got him to say. But how did Mr. Trent get him to say what he did when he didn't do it? Could never do it. Could never do something like that. Never. Never. But if you said you did it, maybe you could do it. Maybe you could do something terrible like that. Maybe deep inside in that secret place of yours, you really knew that you could do it. But how could I do it? Not how, but why. Okay, how and why would I do it then? Look, you already said you could do it, that you did it to little Alicia, when you could never do anything like that to her. But what about someone you could do it to? Like who? Like, oh, maybe Bobo Kelton. Yeah, Bobo Kelton. See, you already said you could do something like that. So why not really do it then? Show them that you could do it. That you said what you said in that room was right, really, and not wrong. Show them all that you weren't wrong after all. But how could I do a thing like that? He wished his mother would come back, or Emma. His father couldn't because he was at work, hot in the house, but he resisted thinking about the heat. A few days ago, he had opened all the windows in the house, not because it was hot, but because he felt like he was suffocating, even though some windows were open. He didn't want to run out of the house. He didn't want to go in the street. And instead, he had run around throwing open all the windows, even in the attic and down in the cellar, even though some of the cellar windows were all dirty and cobwebby. And it wasn't until later when his mother got home that he realized it was pouring outside, and the wind was blowing, and all the windows were open, and the rain was coming in. So he ignored the heat now and wondered about what he should do next. If he was going to show what he could do and really do it this time, instead of saying he did when he didn't, he remembered that Bobo Kelton hung around the rec center a lot. Every day, showing off as usual, laughing and sly as usual. Jason looked at the clock. 10 minutes before 3. Hot afternoon. He knew that Bobo would be at the center. All he had to do was go there and wait. Across the street. A beautiful feeling of sweetness came over him. He lifted his head, let the feeling carry him for a while like a fresh breeze in his heart. Then he went into the kitchen and took the butcher knife out of the drawer. The end.